Hello, everybody. This is Bounce Back with Nima Mankar. Welcome to my show. Guess who's here today? I'm so excited to tell you that we have one of your favorite authors here, Neil De Silva from Mumbai. Who doesn't know him? The bestseller author of horror books, the award winning blogger of Indie Blogger Awards category. Neil is an inspiring speaker at a TEDx platform. He has 12 books to his credit. He was listed in the top 7 Indian horror writers by one of the popular magazines of the United Kingdom. Today, he stands tall as the best Indian horror writer. Wow! Well, what more? He is always the first choice as a judge in all writing competitions. He conducts writing workshops and is a household name in the world of literary clubs across the world. We are privileged to have you here, Neil. So, hello and a big welcome.
Thank you so much, Nimaji, for having me on your show. And I'm very privileged that I am kicking off the first episode of your podcast show that is Bounce Back. So thank you so much for thinking of me. And yes, also for those lofty words, household name I do not know yet, but kind of you to say that. Thank you.
Please tell me a little about your childhood, family, education, and your profession.
Okay, to all my readers who are listening to me, this is a chance to know more about where I started from or where it all began. So I was born in Mumbai. I am still in Mumbai, so a Mumbai boy through and through. So when I came in the house of my parents, I was a kind of a lonely child. I do have a brother, but most of our childhood was like my brother used to be in school and I used to be at home. So it was mostly like I was the only kid at home at most of during my growing up years. Now my dad, he worked full time. He was a assistant sales manager at a company, and he also freelanced as a subtitlist. So he used to subtitle Hindi movies into English. So that was the time, or that was my first brush with storytelling, because my dad's clients were the biggest names of the film world at that time. We had movies from Chopras and all those, Raj Kapoor's movies, and also the Ramsey movies. So all these movies, the scripts used to come to my house, and my dad used to, after he came back from his office, he used to sit on his Remington typewriter and translate those movies from Hindi to English. And I, as a little kid, at that time I might have been in grade 6 or 7, I used to sit next to him when he used to do that. And I used to very intently look at the script, like how he is taking that Hindi dialogue, typing it, and then translating it into English. So that is where my fascination with two things, language as well as storytelling, began. Dad used to also pepper it with instructions, like this is how the shot is made, this is how the dialogues are written, this is what the director must be thinking. So it set me off thinking. Also, my dad again, and yesterday was his birthday, he would have been 87 if he was with us today. He was also an avid book collector. So any book that he would see just chalte chalte on the roadside, he would just pick it up. It did not matter to him what the genre was, who the author was. If he found it interesting, it would land in the house. And there was this entire room in our house which was filled with books, like floor to ceiling. And as a lonely child, in the afternoons, I would run those books. And invariably, I would go to those topmost shelves where he had kept the books that I was not supposed to read as a child. And those were the horror titles. So that is where, again, I was at that same, that previous pubescent age, that is grade 6, 7 maybe. And that is the time when I discovered this motherload of horror books. He had all these titles: Dracula, Frankenstein, The Picture of Dorian Gray. All those titles were there somewhere on the top. And I got those and I started reading them. And that is where my fascination with horror began as a genre. So this was basically my childhood. It was very happy, and we were not a rich family, but we had everything that we wanted, and we were very, very happy. Very contented. A kid growing up. I was born in '75, so growing up time was in my '80s and the early '90s. So in that time, we were very contented with what we had. We did not crave for things. So that is how my childhood was. Then later on, I was good academically. I went into science. I did my graduation. I did my post graduation. And when that happened, I landed up starting a coaching class. My dad used to teach after his retirement. So that itself blossomed into this coaching institute. And I took it over. And the coaching institute did very well again. We had lots of students. And that was a good time of our life, financially speaking, because we had at a time like 500 students a year. So that was uh, good money coming in. But then I did it for 18 years. I started it on the very next day of my post graduation. I finished my last examination was on May 18th, 1998, and I started the coaching class on May 19th, 1998. It was like that. For 18 years, I taught all the subjects. It was a one man show. Then all my other teachers came. At the end of it, we had around a staff of 40. So I taught. 18 years happened, and then suddenly, I got married. I had kids and all. And then I felt like, am I going to do this all my life? Am I going to only be in this one room teaching students? Because my students at that time, they graduated and gone abroad and doing such good stuff, and I was still in that one class school. So that started eating me up. And then I felt like, oh no, I'm okay financially. Maybe I'm very happy. I had a flat of my own. I had everything. I had a 3 BHK in Mumbai and all by that time. But then I was not creatively happy. So, something was bothering me inside. A big nag was there. Like, this is not what you're supposed to do. Then I had a chat with my wife. And then she asked me, what do you want to do? If you are so unhappy, then what do you want to do? This was in 2014. So then I told her I want to go back to what I enjoyed as a kid, and that is stories. I want to write something. I used to freelance. I used to write for clients by at that time also. But then I just said I want to write a novel and I want to see my name on that novel. So then she said, if you want to do it, then go ahead, do it. And that is how in 2015, January 3rd, I released my first book. That was Maya's New Husband. So this is it. This is the beginning of my journey. I know that I went a little bit ahead than the question you asked.
No, no, it's perfectly okay. Very interesting.
I thought I would cover it all.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's good. Yes, thank you so much. How did you feel to see yourself in print for the first time?
That I cannot describe that feeling. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. Like, I don't know how many times in my life I've been really genuinely happy. I was very happy when my son was born. It was the first blessing of my life. Of course, when I got married, but then we got married in an arranged marriage kind of thing. So, that kind of thing had the relationship had not developed by the time we had married. But when the child came, that was my number one happiness. When my daughter came, that was also my number one happiness at an equal level. And then I would say when each of my book comes, especially the first book, Maya's New Husband, when it was released, uh, and my name was there on the cover. I cannot describe how I felt when I got it. The first thing that I did was to open the copies of the book and smell the pages, because that was always something that I love to do even with any other book. So that is, even today you give me any book in my hand, that is what I'll do first. I'll open the pages and I'll smell them. So I saw the smell, and somewhere that at that moment it struck that, oh, this has the same smell that I get from other books that I read, whether they are of Jeffrey Archer or Enid Blyton or Agatha Christie or anybody. So it's the same smell. So I'm in the same space now. I'm also a published author. So it struck at that time that, okay, I'm published. My book is there on the shelves. When in 2017, I got traditionally published. That was with Rupa and Penguin. Two of my books came out together. This was 2019. 2019, two of my books came out together. One was Yakshini with Rupa Publications, and then one was Haunted, which was with Penguin Random House India. And when these books hit the bookstores, when I saw them in Crossword and Oxford and Kitab Khana and all these places, and then I went to the airports when I was traveling to cities. I was called to lit fests. My book was there, and then the people they were so kind to take the book out and give me to sign, take pictures of me on the book. So that was the time, I felt, oh God, this is happening. This is real. So something that I wanted to do has happened. And I'll share an experience here, which I had. Whenever these moments come in my life, Nimaji, I mean, whenever there is anything related success related with books. I always
Okay.
miss my father. I miss him a lot. The reason is because, as I told you, he started me out on this journey. Yes, and we lost him in 2011. That was when he went. He went very happily. I mean, he was a happy soul anyway. So when he went, the last thing that he told me, a few days before his departure, what he told me was that uh, I have a story in mind and I want to write a book. I don't know from where that came, but he just told me that. He was not even coherent at that time. He had lost his senses almost, so he did not know what he was talking. But he told me that. And I heard that, and there was nobody else in the room, and I heard that. He told me the entire thing for 10 minutes, a story. It did not much make sense, but he told me that story. And 5 years later, I actually got published in 2015, which was not a part of my plan, but I got published. So whenever I do that, my first book I dedicated to my dad, and whenever I do that, I miss him. So last year, when Penguin Random House called me to their office in Delhi, and it was an all expense paid trip to Delhi, and called me in the office. They had a book launch, and when I landed at the airport, then there was this chauffeured car waiting for me, from Penguin, and my name was there on that placard, how they stand, and down was written Penguin Random House, up it was Neil De Silva. So I broke down in the car. I was weeping, and that was also my birthday. That was also October 31st. So that was also my birthday, and I was really missing him. That somewhere at least you must see this. What is happening? I'm going to the office of Penguin Random House, and they have called me here. So it's like that. That is a moment.
Very emotional and really interesting. And from your talks, I feel that it was really a smooth ride for you. Was it becoming an author?
Uh, the beginning was a bit smooth, yes, because when I first published my book, Maya's New Husband, it was a Kindle self published book. So I just put the book out and it worked very well. It hit number one, and a lot of my readers already know the history that that book created. There was no other horror book at that time, and this was the number one horror book for a long period of time. For around 2 years, it was in the Amazon top 10. So that ride was very good. And then big publishers spoke to me that they wanted to publish it, with a bigger name, and I got a movie deal on it. A producer also contacted me because of that. That part of the ride was very easy, was good. I was happy. Then I immediately published 2, 3 more books. But then the difficulties started. Then you started understanding the challenges. So first challenge that I understood was that um, I still want to have a big name publisher. That was the first thing, because I was self-published at that time. Another thing was that the lit fests were not inviting me because I was only a self-published author, as I say. So the lit fests, they were sidelining me, even though they knew about me, they knew that the book was doing well. I was not getting invited. That was another thing that rankled me. And there were certain such things, where I just felt that maybe there is another level to go ahead. These all challenges I understood later. There was another big challenge. That was, I was writing horror, and horror doesn't, it didn't have that kind of big market in India as other genres have, like maybe romance or mythology. So then there was also this challenge that, okay, I have to work with horror. I have to bring this one genre. I want to bring people to read it. So these were the challenges later on. Then what happened is I met a literary agent. He contacted me, Suhail Mathur of the Book Bakers. And then we started reorienting my career plan, like what we can do, how we can take Neil De Silva from being a self-published author to being a bigger name author. And that is where we sat and discussed, and we came upon certain plans that, these are the story plots which work, and these are the kinds of things that you can do. And that is when I got the bigger deals. I got the bigger publishing. But even today, I will tell you the challenge still exists. The challenge exists because I write a genre that is not very popular. Horror is still a rising genre in India. Today, it is becoming more popular than it was 5 years ago. But even then, we still have to reach that stage where, as you said, Neil De Silva will become a household name. That has not yet happened.
All right. So, which book of yours is particularly close to your heart?
I have two books that are very, very close to my heart. And the first is, of course, Maya's New Husband, my debut. It is the book that made me. It is the book to which I owe my entire, gratitude for bringing me to this world of authors and literature. So Maya's New Husband is definitely my first book, which I love a lot. And also at that time, nobody knew me. So what I wrote in that book was pure and, like, unadulterated. I did not sanitize anything. I did not censor anything. I wrote everything as raw as I wanted to. So that is a book which is, like 100% pure Neil De Silva. So that book. And the second book, which is my favorite, is Yakshini, because Yakshini was my first big published book when I with Rupa Publications. So that was my first traditionally published book, as I can say, or a commercial book. And Yakshini's story is also very dear to me because it came out of the tragic situation of the Nirbhaya rape case. That was where it started in my mind, and then it bloomed into this story of Yakshini, where I show an optimistic view of things, though the actual case was very bleak and a tragedy for us. But that is how Yakshini was born, and then I gave that story my all. It was everywhere on the stands. Yes, so
Yes, I've read it, and it's really a very nice book.
thank you.
Apart from the challenges, were there any setbacks that you faced in your life?
See, one of the challenges that I faced was, when I was in my coaching class, as I told you, that was a
Yes.
kind of very low state. I was not happy that time at all, which I have already spoken about. That I felt that, okay, I'm making money, but I am not creatively happy. That was one phase. The second phase was this period. In 2015, I got published. In 2016, I was published. In 2017 also. But the period of 2018 was a kind of a low phase, because that period, what happened is, my books didn't come out. There were no books that I brought out, and there were these deals that we were talking about, but the deals did not materialize. So 2018 was a year when I started doing a rethinking, that whether I'm here, is it the right thing to do or not, because I had a good run of 3 years, and then 2018 was a year when a major deal broke. So this was a deal for Yakshini. It was a deal for a movie adaptation of a TV show adaptation, rather, of the book. And we worked on it very hard. Me, my producers, and all, we worked on it very hard for 7 months. And then what happened is we sailed through. We got all the green lights everywhere. The creative department said yes. And for 7 months, we slogged on it. But later on, we found out that the budget that the channel was allocating to the show was very less. And within that budget, my producers could not make that show. And therefore, we had to pull out. And it was with a very heavy heart that we did that. And when that happened, it was like a state of like mental block. And I spoke about that to my wife and all, and she said that maybe it was not time. That is all she said. Maybe it was not time. Maybe something bigger is going to come. So maybe yes, because what happened is, then in 2019 again I got all these big deals. So then I saw that, oh, it's happening. So that was just a year where things had to go slow, probably.
Okay.
That's how it was.
Well, Neil, we see you as a very jolly, jovial, quick-witted person. So we wish to know whether this particular quality of yours has helped in bouncing back after the setback you faced.
I think so, yes. I am a very optimistic person, rather than all, those adjectives that you told me, quick witted, humor, and all. Humor is very important to me. If you see my social media posts, I hardly look like a horror author in those posts, because I do not scare people on social media, but I make them laugh. But you know what actually has sailed me through is my optimism. So I'm a diehard, I'm a crazy optimist. So even in the worst of scenarios, even when things are not working out, I will be the last person to say that "Abhe chhod do." I will still be saying that this will happen. Tomorrow it will happen. Day after tomorrow it's going to happen. So I'm always the person who is thinking, who is hanging on to that one ray of hope. And that is what has really taken me through. As I told you, that 2018 period when I had no deals, nothing was there. So even at that time, I was in a very low state, because that was for the first time that I had a huge offer, and then next day it is suddenly snatched away. Okay, this is not happening. An ordinary person would have broken down at that point, completely gone. But I also felt it. Of course, I will not deny that. I also felt that I was also low for a period of time, but then I bounced back, as your show is called. The reason is because I felt that I have one thing that nobody can take from me, and that is my talent to write. So what if this did not work out? My talent is not gone, right? I can still write. If that is gone, then maybe I will be totally at a loss. But that is not gone. That I still have. And as long as I have that capacity to write, and as long as I have my readers, as long as I have my literary agent, and as long as my publishers are having trust in me, till that time that is there, I am not defeated. I am still working. So that is what keeps me going. And then I change the channel and I come back from this doom and gloom to laughing and making people laugh. I'm not a comedian, but I think that I tend to be a little bit humorous in my posts because that is how. And this famous movie, Mera Naam Joker of Raj Kapoor,
Yeah.
where the Joker is laughing all the time, but inside the sorrow that he has is colossal. That is the way most of us are. Most of us are, not just me. Most of us are. We have our sorrows, but people are not interested in knowing about what our sorrows are. And telling your sorrows to other people is not going to make you a winner in life. What is going to make you a winner in life is to have this optimistic, humorous approach. That is what is going to see you through.
It's very well put. Could you share a few funny episodes of your life?
I think we are all jokers in my house. So because I write horror, everybody in the house, pulls my leg at some time or the other. My wife, my children, all of them. But there was this one incident I remember. I'll share two incidents with you. Okay, so one is in my house. I was writing a very deeply scary scene in my room alone. It was after midnight, and I'm just writing it, and I'm totally engrossed in the scene because I think I was killing somebody or something. So I was totally engrossed in how violent that scene was, and I'm writing, and all of a sudden my wife comes from behind me and she puts her hand on my shoulder like this. Okay, so I get the shock of my life. I turn to look and she is dressed in this white gown. So that was a double shock. So she deliberately came to, have that fun with me. So this is the kind of pranks that we do at home. Now, this second moment I'll share with you. This is very interesting. This was last year with the Pune International Lit Fest. So I was there on the panel, and Jay Alani was there. Jay Alani is my co-author with Haunted, the Penguin book, and he's a paranormal investigator. So we were on the panel, and there were like 300, 350 people in the audience. It was a big hit event. Mm, yeah. So Jay was telling a story of his investigation. Now, if you have heard Jay's podcast, he's very famous as a podcaster as well. So when Jay speaks, he has a very mellow, deep, somber kind of voice. So that voice itself, it will scare you, because he has that kind of capacity with his voice, that kind of talent. So the entire audience of 350 people were very carefully listening to his ghost story. I think he was discussing about his visit to Bhangad or some place like that, a haunted location. So he was deeply saying, and everybody was scared. First of all, it was getting dark outside, it was nearing evening, and everybody was scared. And suddenly, you know what happened? At a particular moment in the story, the lights went off. So there was a kind of, the complete darkness, the whole place plunged in darkness. And that shout that came from the audience, like that, everybody got so scared, people jumped off their seats. This really happened. And it was in this panel only, the horror panel. And then in 2 minutes, the lights came back. But the way that people got a scare, and then the laugh that we had over it later, all of us, that was something remarkable.
Quite scary. I can, yes, I can imagine. Now, we are very curious to know whether you have actually seen a real ghost, a spirit in your life.
I have near experiences. I will not say that I don't know. When I was getting my apartment, my flat, this was, I think I was around 27 at that time. So I had to have it on a bank loan. And the bank manager, he was not being very generous, like he was making us run from here to there for some document or the other. So around 2 months passed, and he was not disbursing the loan. He was not signing on that dotted line where we were supposed to sign. And what was also happening is we had paid the down payment to the builder. So the builder was threatening us. The builder was telling us कि अभी interest भरना पड़ेगा and etc etc. So from there we were getting the threats, and from here the bank was not giving the amount that it was supposed to give. So we were in a big, very difficult state at that time. So then what happened is, one day the bank manager called us in the morning. So us, in the sense, I, my mother, and my brother. The three of us went to the bank and we sat there. This was the loan department of the bank, so there was nobody else. Okay, we sat. And when we sat, we were still discussing that, the bank manager is just like that. He has called today, also he's going to send us back, etc. Now, at that time, a man walks in the waiting room. And this man comes and sits across us. And we are stunned. We are stunned because this man looked exactly like my grandfather. And my grandfather died 10 years ago. So he was there and remarkably the same. Means my grandfather, he had these white marks over his face, and also he had the same kind of marks, the same kind of dressing. And he comes and sits. And we are just, stunned like, what is this? How can two people be so similar? And then the bank manager calls me. So when he calls me, I stand up and I look at that man again. And you know what that man does? He raises his thumb and he does a thumbs up sign too. I don't even know he is. He smiles and he does a thumbs up sign. Now, in that mixed feeling, I go to the bank manager. I don't even know what's going on, what went on outside. I go, and the bank manager is also smiling at me. And he just gives me the file and he says, sign, he has signed it already. And he says, Aapka kaam ho gaya. And I am shaking. I came out, and when I come out, that other man, he has disappeared. He's not there in the room anymore. So what my mother said later is that, maybe your grandfather somewhere he saw that you were in difficulty and he came today to bless you, and that is why the work happened. So this is an
Oh my
incident that
God.
has happened. I know it is very scary, but it is a kind of sweet scary. I think our dead and departed people, they are looking at us, and they come to us to help us in our difficult situations. I think that happens.
It is quite scary. I still feel that,
Yeah.
shaking
Yes, yes,
feeling, yes.
I do too.
Okay, Neil, so you are the first man I'm speaking to who is very comfortable with the label house husband. Please say something about this.
In my house, even my parents' house, we did not have any kind of gender discrimination. Like there were no roles. Like this is the role a father has to do. This is the role a mother has to do. In our case, me and my wife, that definitely does not exist. So like it's not at all that I don't get up in the morning expecting that my wife will cook today. It may be my chance to cook. So we do that, we alternate it. Okay, so sometimes, and not even alternate, it is just like who wants to cook today, kiska man hai. So today I cooked, yesterday she cooked, so it is like that. The same is with every duty, whether it is going to the bank or going to the post office, all these important, all these necessary things, or going to buy groceries or anything like that. So we do not have a set person who will go and do that. It's like today you are going, you do it. Today I am going, I'll do it. My children also, they look at us equally. Their father and mother, we are by title, but the work, when it comes, it can come to anybody. It's not like if, in most houses the children have a kind of mentality that this is the work, then papa has to do, this is the work, then mama has to do. In my house that is not there like that. So the children, they can go to any one of us with any of their problems, and we are equally adept at solving this. This helped me, I'll tell you why. Because when I started this podcast with you in 2014, when I told you that I was planning to become a writer, and my wife said that if you want to become a writer, then do it, then write. But that entailed one thing, and that was shutting down the coaching class, because I didn't want to do both the things together. So at that time, that was my dilemma. I did not know whether I should do that and take that step, because I did not want to sail in two boats. So you know what my wife said at that time? My wife, Anita, she said that if you want to shut down your coaching class, you shut it down and you write. I will take a job and I'll become a teacher in the school. So then for a few years, that was what exactly happened. When I was struggling and I was trying to write my first initial books, and I was giving it my all. During that time, my wife was working, and she was bringing the bread and butter home, the proverbial livelihood. That was what she was doing, and I was taking care of the kids at home. So this happened for 2 3 years, and I think from there it has started that we now no longer have gender roles in our house. She still works today. She is still a teacher. She became HOD and all. She is promoted several times in a job, so she is still doing it. And I have now brought out 12 books, and you know that people are appreciating it. Now I think if my wife had not given me that support, those books would never have happened. I would not have gotten that space. So this is one thing I would like to say, that any kind of creative thing, you need support of people, of your family most importantly. And that's why I don't mind whether you call me house husband or what. These are all titles.
Yes, ladies are going to be very happy hearing that.
Yeah, hats off to them.
There are so many things to know, but unfortunately, we are coming to the end of a talk. So, once again, I would like to say just a few motivating words to all the aspiring listeners, especially to the ones who are struggling to bounce back after a major mishap.
I would like to say that writing is not an easy profession to be in. Writing is fun. When you're writing the story, it is great fun to build your characters, plots, all those things. Of course you will find that also difficult at times. You'll have to struggle through it also to create a nice story. But the entire journey I'm talking about, it's not easy, because the thing is, you have to get published, you will have to market your book, you need the support of your readers, and you will have to make sure that you have written a good book. And writing is such a thing, we writers are usually never happy with what we have, so we are always looking for the next step. So this kind of thing will happen with you also. Once you are published, you will feel that I want to be published with somebody bigger. When that happens, you will think that I want to go to a lit fest. When that happens, probably you'll think that I want an award. So that kind of steps are going to happen, but don't think about that. So the wants will be never ending. Think about where you are at this point in your life, and are you better than where you were last year? If that makes you happy, then remember that you are bouncing upwards. And that is what it is all about, right? We all evolve. Just make sure that you don't go down, just go up. That's my message to you.
Okay, it's been such a pleasure listening to you, Neil. Thank you very muji.
Thank you so much, Nimaji, for having me. Pleasure to have answered all these questions. And thanks for bringing out this side of me, because in podcasts and interviews, people do not ask me such pointed questions, which will bring out those kind of emotions from me. So thank you. This was a very fun talk.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Dear listeners, if you like the conversation, then please do tune in again to Bounce Back with Nima Mankar, third of each month, for another interesting talk. I would also like to thank Manan and Elvis for the technical support they have given me. You may subscribe, review, share, like. Thank you.